Right, so Ed Miliband is back. Remember him? The bloke who lost to David Cameron, ate that bacon sandwich like he was wrestling a particularly aggressive squid, and then vanished into the political wilderness. Yeah, well, he's returned with a vengeance, and this time he's not just embarrassing himself at photo ops, he's actively dismantling the British economy, one green policy at a time. And the absolute madness of it all? He genuinely thinks he's the hero in this story. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine handing the keys to your brand new Range Rover to someone who's already totaled 3 cars, failed their driving test twice, and thinks speed limits are just suggestions. That's essentially what Keir Starmer did when he made Ed Miliband the Energy Secretary. And now we're all passengers in this careening vehicle, watching in horror as Miliband floors it toward a brick wall labelled Net Zero 2030, while screaming about how this is actually the safest route. The man promised us cheaper energy bills. 300 quid off, he said. Look you straight in the eye and tell you your household would be better off under Labour's clean energy revolution. Well, spoiler alert, that was bollocks. Complete and utter bollocks. When Labour took the reins in July 2024, your typical dual-fuel energy bill sat at £1,568. Fast forward to today, and it's £1,755. That's not a reduction, that's a £187 increase. And here's the kicker. Wholesale gas prices actually fell during that same period. So somehow, despite the raw materials getting cheaper, your bills went up. It's like buying a sandwich and being charged extra because the bread got discounted. Make it make sense. But Ed doesn't care about sense. Ed cares about his legacy. Ed wants to be the man who saved the planet, the climate warrior who sacrificed everything for the greater good. Noble, right? Except he's sacrificing your job, your business, and your ability to heat your home in winter. But sure, Ed, you go ahead and feel good about yourself. Now look, I'm not some climate change denier living in a cave eating raw meat and denying basic science. Climate change is real. It's happening. We can all see it. British summers are getting weirder, winters are more unpredictable, and somewhere in the Arctic a polar bear is probably filling out a complaint form. We need to transition away from fossil fuels. Nobody with a functioning brain cell disputes that. But here's the thing. There's a right way and a wrong way to do it, and Ed Miliband has chosen the wrong way with such enthusiasm you'd think the right way personally insulted his mother. The transition from fossil fuels to renewable energy is complicated. It's expensive. It requires careful planning, strategic investment, and a realistic timeline that doesn't bankrupt the entire nation before we've even installed half the solar panels. But Ed's approach, smash everything now, figure it out later. It's like deciding to renovate your house by first blowing up the foundation and then wondering why everything's collapsing. Take North Sea oil and gas. Miliband's basically shutting down exploration like he's playing whack-a-mole at an arcade, except instead of winning a stuffed toy, we're losing thousands of jobs and billions in revenue. Communities in Scotland and northeast England that have depended on this industry for generations are watching their livelihoods evaporate because Ed read a report once and decided he knows better than everyone else. And here's where it gets properly stupid. We still need gas. Britain runs on gas. Your heating, your electricity, your ability to make a cup of tea when it's miserable outside, all dependent on gas. So, if we're not producing it ourselves, where's it coming from? Qatar, Russia, countries with questionable human rights records and even dodgier environmental standards. We're basically outsourcing our carbon emissions to authoritarian regimes and pretending that's somehow better for the planet. It's virtue signaling on a national scale, and it's costing us everything. Compare this lunacy to Norway. Norway, that lovely Scandinavian country that's basically the poster child for doing things sensibly. They're incredibly climate conscious. They love their electric vehicles, their fjords, and their commitment to sustainability. But you know what else they love? Drilling for oil and gas. They haven't shut down their North Sea operations. They're still investing, still extracting, still making billions. And they use that revenue to fund their world-class public services and their green transition. They've got the best healthcare in Europe, education that actually works, and a sovereign wealth fund worth over $1 trillion. Meanwhile, we've got crumbling hospitals, teachers buying their own supplies, and Ed Miliband telling us we should feel good about being poorer because at least we're morally superior. It doesn't even work environmentally. Importing gas from thousands of miles away, shipped on massive tankers burning fuel the entire journey, produced in facilities with lower environmental standards than ours. How is that better for the climate? It's not. It's worse. We're just exporting the problem and pretending we've solved it. It's like sweeping dirt under the rug and declaring your house clean. Sure, it looks tidy from where you're standing, but the mess is still there. And the jobs. Let's talk about the jobs disappearing faster than free drinks at a party. Energy sector workers are getting shafted. Skilled engineers, technicians, support staff, people who've built their entire career in this industry are being told to retrain for something else. What, exactly? Wind turbine maintenance? Great, except there aren't nearly enough of those jobs to replace what's being lost. And many of these workers are in their 40s, 50s with mortgages and families. They can't just pivot to a completely different career like they're fresh graduates with nothing to lose. Businesses are feeling it too. Energy-intensive industries, manufacturers, anyone who relies on affordable power to operate, they're all looking at their rising bills and thinking, why are we staying here? They'll move. They'll relocate to countries with cheaper energy, lower standards, and higher emissions. And Ed will have achieved the exact opposite of what he claims to want. More emissions globally, fewer jobs in Britain, and a weaker economy. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Now we've got a number, a proper, terrifying number that puts all of this into perspective. The National Energy System Operator, the actual experts, not politicians with ideological axes to grind, have crunched the figures. Achieving net zero on Miliband's insane timescale will cost £350 billion. £350 billion. That's not a typo, that's not an exaggeration, that's the actual estimated cost of Ed's grand vision. To put that in perspective, that's roughly the entire annual budget of the NHS. It's more than Britain's defence spending over a decade. It's the kind of money that could transform infrastructure, education, healthcare, housing, literally anything useful. But instead, it's being funneled into a rushed, poorly planned energy transition that's causing chaos and making everyone poorer. If Ed Miliband were a foreign power deliberately trying to sabotage Britain's economy, we'd have declared war by now. We'd have sanctions, military posturing, strongly worded letters from the Foreign Office. But because he's wearing a Labour rosette and speaking in that earnest, slightly nasal voice of his, we're supposed to just accept it. He's not a threat, he's our energy secretary. He's not destroying the economy, he's saving the planet. Except he's doing neither effectively, and we're all paying the price. And here's the truly bonkers part, the absolutely mind-bendingly insane cherry on top of this disaster sundae. Ed Miliband is apparently the frontrunner to replace Keir Starmer as Prime Minister. Let that sink in. The man who led Labour to electoral annihilation in 2015, who couldn't even beat David Cameron when the Tories were riddled with infighting, who's currently presiding over an energy policy that's making everyone poorer, is being touted as the next PM. It's like watching someone crash a car, total it completely, and then being handed the keys to a bigger, more expensive car with a note saying, "We believe in you, try again." It's lunacy. Absolute certifiable lunacy. Labour has lost its collective mind. They've gone from being the party of working people to the party of ideological purity tests and economic self-sabotage. Rachel Reeves is wrecking public finances, Ed Miliband is destroying energy security, and Keir Starmer is just standing there like a haunted mannequin, nodding along to it all. This isn't governance, this is performance art. Bad performance art that we're all forced to watch while our bills go up and our job prospects disappear. Voters already rejected Miliband. Once. In 2015, they looked at him and thought, nah, not for us. And they were right. But Starmer, in his infinite wisdom, decided that serial failure deserved another chance. Not just any chance, one of the most critical jobs in government. Energy policy affects everything. It affects business competitiveness, household budgets, national security, environmental outcomes, employment, everything. And it's been handed to someone who treats it like a personal crusade rather than a complex policy area requiring nuance and pragmatism. Every day Miliband remains in post, Britain gets weaker. Jobs disappear, businesses relocate, bills rise, communities suffer. And through it all, Ed stands there with that self-satisfied expression, convinced he's on the right side of history. Maybe he is. Maybe in 50 years people will look back and say he was a visionary who made tough choices for the greater good. Noble, right? Except he's sacrificing your job, your business, and your ability to heat your home in winter. But sure, Ed, you go ahead and feel good about yourself. Now look, I'm not some climate change denier living in a cave eating raw meat and denying basic science.